Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom, and we're going to be looking at an interesting book. So this is more Cinderella stories. So this is obviously it's a picture book called Cendrillon. Pardon my French, literally. This is in French and Creole because it happens in the Caribbean. It's by Robert de Souci and illustrated by Brian Pinkney. Now, Souci, we've done one of his books before. He does the other Creole stories at Easter, the Talking Eggs. So he's the author of that book, not obviously, I believe it's a different illustrator. So this is the Caribbean Cinderella. This is an interesting take on the story. So it's told by the godmother. So first part of it is her story. So she's a poor girl. When her mother dies, her mother leaves her this wand of mahogany, and she basically tells her, tap 3 times and this will change something to something else, but you can only do it for somebody you love and not yourself, and it only lasts for a short while. So it's like, okay, this is useless to me. So she grows up and eventually becomes a washerwoman, and then she befriends this older woman, this other woman who's a wealthier woman, and she's very sick. She's a sickly woman, and so our main character here has a tendency to tend to her, and in order to honor her, she's named her daughter Cendrillon's godmother. So, and then shortly, of course, this woman dies, as is the story, and her father remarries by the name of Madame Prospine, who is very arrogant because her grandfather is from France. So again, she's hanging on that French heritage here. And so she eventually has a daughter called, here we go. What on earth is the name of the daughter? Let's see. Vitelaine. Again, I don't speak French. So she throws a huge party for christening for her. And then you have Cendrillon, who is now being used essentially as a servant. And her father is afraid of his new wife, so he does not stand up for her. So this is actually closer to the original French tale that we covered of Cinderella, where Dad's not dead. He's just not doing anything. So girl grows up. She does their family laundry next to her old godmother by the river, and they become friends. And one day she comes sad-faced, and her godmother asks, what's wrong? It's like, well, there's going to be a giant party from, I think this seems probably one of the higher people in town, he's like a prince, and it's for his birthday, and she can't go because, again, she's a servant. She sleeps on a mat on the floor and does the family's chores, and her father doesn't do anything about it. Though, of course, in this story, it's a little different in her relation. She's technically, it's not a stepsister, it's a half-sister, because they share a father. So her godmother says, knowing she has this wand, okay, I will make this come true for you. So she comes over later in the evening, and you have the stepmother and stepsister rushing to get ready, and they're ordering them about, because they're servants. So after they leave, the godmother says, go get and it calls it something else, a fruit à pain. Again, mispronouncing. It's breadfruit. So, from the garden. And she taps 3 times, turns into a carriage. And then she turns these guinea pig-like creatures into horses, and then, of course, lizards into coachmen, and so on. And then she taps her goddaughter and gives her this absolutely utterly beautiful dress and headscarf and eventually shoes. And then this is another slight difference. She taps herself and gets dressed up and goes as the chaperone to Cendrillon. So they go, all the carriages go to the big house, which looks very much like a castle. So, and everybody, of course, is astonished and sees her, and she's beautiful. And her stepmother, her stepsister, and her half-sister, not stepsister in this case, half-sister, don't recognize her. And the prince falls in love, and he dances with her all night. And as her godmother watches on. And they're having so much fun they nearly forget. And the godmother hears the first strike of the clock, indicating it's going to be midnight soon. So she grabs Cendrillon and they run away. And she accidentally trips and leaves a shoe. So she only has one shoe. And they barely get away, as is the story, before everything turns back to the way it was. So the next day, they go back, and Cendrillon doesn't come to the river. So her godmother goes to check on her and realizes she's sick, and she's heartsick. So, because she said she loved him, but she says it has to do with the spell. It's like he only loved me because of how I was dressed. But the prince comes with his looking for someone to fit the shoe, which wasn't glasses in this story. I think it was just very fancy with roses on it. And of course, the stepsister doesn't fit the shoe. And her godmother convinces her to come out and uses the wand again. And Cendrillon's like, no, change me back. I don't want the magic here. And however, she does obviously interact with the prince, and he recognizes her, and she fits the shoe, and he falls in love and says, basically, I'm going to marry you. And then so they get married. And of course, you have the godmother, and pretty much she saw the entire thing, and she was at the wedding. So that's this story. It doesn't really talk about what happens to the stepmother or stepsister, probably not much. So it's a very interesting story. It's a different take on Cinderella. It's a Caribbean tale, so it is very close, obviously, to the French tale, which is a little bit different from the German tale, but it keeps the father alive, which is actually one of the first times I've actually seen one of these Cinderella fictional stories that I've done where, with the exception, of course, of the originals, where dad's still alive, he's just not doing anything. So, which again, is similar to a couple other stories. I believe the only other one that I know that does this is Ella Enchanted, though her father's a bit more of a douchebag in that story. It's a fantastic little book. The illustrations are beautiful. It's a good take on Cinderella. If you're looking for something more multicultural, which is kind of what I'm trying to cover with the fictional stories this month with Cinderella, because there's a wide collection of them. It's well done. It's very unique. Particularly it has people of color, which I try to bring into our stories, into this channel specifically. I like looking at the different cultures and how they interpret, particularly Cinderella stories. Cinderella is a pretty common, the rags to riches story is very, very common throughout all over the world, essentially. And how I don't have the background to know the influences, whether this is really influenced by the European stories and expansion, or if these stories were there already. So, but again, this is a great, fun story. The illustrations are beautiful. It's very well done. And again, it's a fun look. You're also looking at kind of the clothing style and everything of the Caribbean at this time. I'm not sure where it doesn't specify the time period when this takes place. But obviously, I believe slavery would be done. So you have upper class Caribbean aristocracy going on here. So it's a wonderful tale. Highly recommend it. I will link it in the description below if you want to look at it. Add it to your collection, borrow it from your library, which is what I did, and it just took a while. So yeah, this is being filmed in February of 2022, as opposed to most of my other Cinderella stuff, which was filmed back in 2021 and months ago. But I have been literally waiting on this book from the library for months. Finally got it in. Probably going to add it to my to-buy list, since it's a very fun story. So if you like what you see, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. I did a wide variety of Cinderella stuff in September 2022, from films to various different children's books, to different iterations of that. I have a wide variety of other stuff. I do children's books. I do older stuff. I do book series. I do various films. I do some homeschooling stuff. We do some travel stuff. That stuff is coming. My daughter is 3 at the time you guys will see this. She's just turned 2.5 at the time I'm filming. So we will be adding that more homeschooling stuff and more of the project stuff as time goes on. But again, she's a little bit too little to do anything even close to schooling right now, besides a lot of book reading, lots and lots of book reading, which is why I share this stuff with you guys. So check out the channel, leave a positive comment if you have one. Like and subscribe. I have a good library of various different book reviews and film reviews and various other stuff to have available to you. Thank you.